So, my Darren Daily friends, are these times bad times or good times? What would you say? And are you sure about that? As Kurt Vonnegut would say, the truth is, we know so little about life. We don't really know what the good news is and what the bad news is. Think about it. Take a look back at your own journey up to this point. You'll notice that your best inflection points were times of crisis. Maybe it was a painful rejection, or a breakup, or a demotion, or being fired, or a business failure, or even a bankruptcy. Maybe even divorce, or, God forbid, the death of a loved one. And maybe even a previous recession, or an industry disruption, a competitive threat, the loss of a big deal. I remind you of this parable. Take a look.
Upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away. And all the neighbors came round that evening and said, "That's too bad." And he said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Why, that's great, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, his son was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it and was thrown and broke his leg. And all the neighbors came round in the evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" And the farmer said, "Maybe." And the next day, the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round that evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And he said, "Maybe." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it is really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequences of a misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequences of good fortune.
So, now I ask you, is this COVID-19 thing a bad thing? Maybe. Will it prove overall to be a good thing? Maybe. Alan Watts, whose voice you heard in that clip, said, "The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it's really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad. And yet most of us spend swaths of our days worrying about the prospect of events we judge to be negative, potentially losses driven by what we perceive to be quote-unquote bad news. What is for sure is this: things will never be as they were. There was a pre-9/11 world and a post-9/11 world. There will be a pre-COVID-19 world, and there will be a post-COVID-19 world. And the two will be different. The door to the world in which we were familiar is closed. But, as Alexander Graham Bell noted, when one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. Personally, I'm excited about the forced changes and positive influence this will have on our culture and humanity. Here's a few that I see. More sophisticated and flexible use of technology. A return to faith, that is in science and real experts. More unity and less polarization. Revived appreciation for the outdoors and parks. Online learning as a standard and not second class. The virtual workplace by all, including Congress, if you can believe that. Healthier digital lifestyle, more about using it for ways to help people, not just to be a gimmick. Stronger family care for both children and the elderly. New appreciation for the stay-at-home parent. Respect for teachers and healthcare workers. New community and civic commitment. And the dinosaurs finally go digital. Medicare, schools, elections, telemedicine, etc. And I think just a greater appreciation for the simple pleasures of life. Oh, and no more clammy handshakes. Just fist bumps for me going forward. So as the Stoic Senator wrote so many years ago, there are more things likely to frighten us than are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Some things torment us more than they ought. Some torment us before they ought, and some torment us when they ought not torment us at all. We are in the habit of exaggerating or imagining or anticipating sorrow. And the final Stoic advice for you this morning comes from Epicurus. The fool, with all his other faults, has this also. He's always getting ready to live. So Darren Daily community, live fully now. Yes, even during these crazy times. As much as you are able, live fully now. Serve fully now. Yes, particularly in these times, figure out your way to be of help. Fuel the positive, not the negative. Feed yourself and others hope, not more fear and torment and quote unquote bad news. Stay strong, my Darren Daily friends, and write down in your Darren Daily journal, what positive changes do you see this COVID thing having on our future? And tell us your thoughts about it in the comments below. Hey Darren Daily friends, if you haven't gotten your own Darren Daily journal, I want to encourage you to do so. People are loving it as much as I have. Think of this, what an incredible memento to leave behind. Better than your old clothes, your furniture, or tea set, but how about an anthology of your personal growth? Like a step-by-step, day-by-day chronicle of your heroic journey. I think about my own late father or my adopted father, Jim Rohn. How amazing would it be to read the lessons that they were learning every day and how they were applying them to attempt to be a better human? Undoubtedly, it would be one of the most treasured possessions that I had, as it will be if you were to ever pass this on to your prodigy. So whether you plan to leave it behind or forever keep it private, what a treasure map this will be in showing the path for which you have traveled to get you to where it is that you're going. You can just use the link below to get your copy now.